Alright guys, I just want to do a quick PSA video here, which by no stretch of the imagination is this news, but I just found out about this more recently, and when I looked it up on YouTube to see if there were any other videos talking about it, I found a few, but not too many. So there might be more people that don't really know about this, so I just want to put it out there. The Spyro Reignited Trilogy did actually receive a proper physical release. Now, way back in 2018, before this game initially came out, I made a video complaining about it because the physical copies were not going to include all three games on the disc. They were going to include the first game and then only the first few levels from the second and third game, which completely defeats the purpose of even having a physical copy in the first place. But anyway, so I did not buy the game, and I was hoping that eventually they would re-release it with all three games actually on the disc, as it should be. And I followed the news for a while, and nothing came of it. They ported it to Switch, and it still had the same issue. And eventually I stopped following it real closely. But it turns out that over a year, actually, after the initial release, around November of 2019, they did end up re-releasing the game with all three full, complete games included on the disc, as it should have been. But in typical Activision fashion, they had to make things difficult and do it in the most retarded way possible. So I actually do have a copy right here. Now this is the re-release, but if you'll notice, I'll try to get a good shot of this here. On the front of the game case, it still says requires content download. Now this is not true. It does not require a content download, but it still says it does because they didn't bother reprinting the box art to update it and remove that little disclaimer at the bottom. So if you just look at it from the outside, there's actually no way to tell which version of the game you're dealing with, if it's the original release or the actual complete updated release. Now, there is a few ways to tell, which I'll put an image up on screen so you can see this better. If you look at the actual disc itself, they did reprint some of the text on the disc, which is funny because the disc still says requires content download too. But underneath that, on the copyright information, it says copyright 2018-2019, while the original disc only had copyright 2018 written on it. So if you look at the actual disc itself, you can tell which version you're looking at. Now, if you're buying this game new from the store or online or something, then you're not going to be able to see the disc before actually purchasing and opening the game. Now, fortunately, there is another way to tell, and that is this little insert they included for the Crash Team Racing Nitro Fueled game. The original release of the game did not include any sort of inserts, or of course it didn't come with a manual because we can't get manuals anymore. But it didn't have anything actually in the case other than the disc itself, while the re-release has this little insert. So if you want to be able to tell which version of the game you're dealing with without actually having to open it up, the easiest way is to just shake it. And if you hear the insert rattling around in there, then you know you got the updated version of the game. Now, at this point, since it's been so long since this re-release happened, if you're buying it new from the store or anywhere, then it's extremely unlikely that it's going to be the original incomplete release at this point. It's most likely going to be the updated version that actually has them all on disc. So you don't really have to worry about that too much unless you're, getting it somewhere used or something. But that is the way to tell. It does have all three games. I checked it myself. I unplugged the internet and put it in and installed the game. It did have version 1.03 on the disc, which is the most up-to-date version as of this recording, which I don't think it's going to be getting any more updates at this point. So, it did have all the patches on the disc. It did have all the games on the disc. It was 36 point whatever gigs or whatever. And then I reconnected the internet and checked for any updates, and it said there was none. So it is the proper complete version of the game. It is out there and possible to get, which makes someone like me who really cares about physical copies, makes me very much happy. Now, I do apologize for this video being so late. I wish I had found out about this a lot sooner, but that's my own fault for being a fucking retard and not keeping up with the news as I should have. But anyway, one last thing. This goes for the PS4 and Xbox One versions of the game, but as far as I know, I don't believe there is a complete version on Switch, unfortunately. So, if you want a Switch copy of the game, you're still going to have to download part of it. You're not going to get a complete copy on cartridge, which at this point I highly doubt that they're ever going to release one. So, that kind of sucks, but 2 out of 3, I guess that's as most you can hope for these days. But anyway, so, just in the interest of fair reporting, I wanted to make this video and give Activision some credit, because they did, in fact, in the end, do the right thing. They just did it in the most obtuse and retarded way as possible. But anyway, I guess that's all I got to say. So, lots of luck to you and yours.